Good afternoon, everyone from New York, and good evening, wherever you're joining us from in Nigeria. My name is Professor Remi Alapo, joining from York College, or should I say Professor Remi Alapo, you know. This is the course that we are going to be hearing a presentation from today is cultural diversity and multicultural education in the 21st century, being taught at York College, which is a part of the City University of New York. Today, we're fortunate to have Professor Adebusuyi and his fellow faculty and students from the Obafemi Awolowo University, which is located in Ile-Ife, Nigeria in West Africa. He was here earlier this morning in the previous cultural diversity class, and we were also fortunate for him to join us with his colleagues and students in the Black Women in the Americas course, in which students made a presentation. So now we're going to start the other session of the cultural diversity class. Before his presentation on living in complex societies, we're going to open up the floor for general comments and exchange between the students and staff from Obafemi Awolowo University and us. So please go ahead and take the floor, Professor Adebusuyi.
Good evening, Professor Alapo, and the participants from both sides. You know, it's a big opportunity being with you this evening, and I say good evening from Nigeria, and possibly good morning or good afternoon in America. And as I said earlier on, it's a real privilege being able to partner on this project. And as we had last year, we had an event last year on the cultural diversity class. And I'm expecting greater engagement on this component for the year as well. And as I also made mention earlier on, you know, aside from routine lecture delivering on this partnership, I want to kind of deeper engagement from both sides. I know Professor Alapo, we have been partnering on different fronts, but when it comes to our students, my students in OAU, Ile-Ife, and a student from York, from New York as well, from Professor Alapo's university, I want a kind of a deeper interaction among the students. We are after delivering lectures, they can still be able to interact. Just as we created the last time, you know, we created a WhatsApp page, Facebook page, just to sustain the line of communication. So please, I want this project to take a step further by making sure that this intent comes to timely fruition, whereby we can exchange ideas from here, also from the other side. And aside from exchanging ideas, we can also look at possible projects that students on both sides can partner on. And as I said earlier on, the next version we'll be having next year from our sites at OAU in Nigeria. I want my students also to be working on research papers as well. We want to be making presentations, and also not just mere presentation, but graded presentations. We would like to do that. So in brief, aside from what we're having presently, I want students from both sides to explore possible ways of partnering on research, a change of ideas, and even as time goes on, we look for possible exchange programs between these two schools as we progress on this particular project. So thank you for the opportunity, Professor Alapo.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Thank you so much, Professor Adebusuyi, for your comments. And, for those that are wondering what the COIL program is about, it originated from the State University of New York, and it's COIL, which stands for Collaborative Online International Learning. And this is the second time that Professor Adebusuyi and I will be working collaboratively across borders to run a project using through the COIL platform. And last year, about a year ago, to be exact, we had another series of engagements between York College students in the Cultural Diversity program. And the topic was on living in complex societies, but the idea of verbal and non-verbal communication, how that affects individuals in the society. And this second time around, we're looking more into the complexities of societies.
Hi, Professor.
Hi, how are you? Just a moment, please. So the complexities of living in a specific society where, the means of production or occupation or engagement are complex, and how individuals interact with those complexities. We're going to hear more from Professor Adebusuyi in a few minutes, but for those just joining us, Professor Adebusuyi was offering his suggestions, which we've discussed a number of times, on how we can continue to build on this collaborative online international learning exchange between these two institutions, Obafemi Awolowo University, that is located in Ile-Ife, Nigeria, and also York College, with the City University of New York. I would like to invite Prince Akinwale Ojomo, who is the CEO and founder of the Diaspora Innovation Institute. Is actually the reason that I'm in touch with Professor Adebusuyi. He was the one who linked both of us together, and through his organization, he's led a lot of interactive activities around the diaspora of Africa, on brain capital, supporting the idea of brain capital in different countries, especially Nigeria. But most importantly, I wanted him to share with us today, some of his ongoing activities, and why he was, in support of the COIL program between myself and Professor Adebusuyi. Prince Akinwale, you can unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Remi. I really appreciate all you do all the time. And I must say, I bring greetings from Nigeria to the student, the faculty, my very good friend, Professor Adebusuyi. And of course, the student from both universities and departments. So my name is Akinwale Ojomo. I've been running the Diaspora Innovation Institute since 2012 in Nigeria, after spending almost 2 decades in the United States. So we're just bringing kind of our learning and even our experiences in the United States, and see how the engagement can come through the African diaspora. So a lot of human capital actually resides in the diaspora, and we thought there's the need for a linkage to be able to make this thing happen. So when the opportunity came for this COIL program collaboration, and I thought it's a very great, Diaspora Innovation Institute has an office and a collaboration with the Obafemi University for about 4 years. And one of the programs is to create, as a matter of time now, a center for migration, diaspora, and humanitarian studies. And I think Dr. Adebusuyi will be talking about that as well. So having said that, I think the most critical part is to see the progress, the incremental progress we are really making in this COIL program that has been piloted by our amiable Dr. Remi and Dr. Adebusuyi. I think it's a very, very interesting program. And we want to really expand this because instantly what really excites me about this program is that instantly you have a network of students in Ile-Ife and Brooklyn or in City University of New York. And to me, that's really amazing because it has really changed the dynamics of networking. You now have people in two different locations and they're really connecting with each other. So they are doing this even to the course of their lifetime. Here we are people who you never met in person, but you never know. There are great things you're going to be doing together. For instance, Dr. Adebusuyi, you haven't met Dr. Remi Alapo, but they've been doing this collaboration together. And that's the beauty of what Diaspora Innovation Institute is doing, to build a bridge between the institutions, to build a bridge between organizations, and ensuring that there's synergy that really creates value in the long run. So I won't say much. I'm not a guest lecturer today because I told already that I can come and just do my own time to give a lecture on this, especially talking about even Diaspora Institute. But I think for now is to be able to really welcome all of you guys to ensuring that this, maximize this time, ask questions about Nigeria, ask questions about New York City, ask questions about the United States of America and Nigeria itself. So that way you can have a robust knowledge of what it's all about. And now you are making friends in these two countries. So I wish you guys a great time. I wish you, and I was looking forward to even come and talk more about the institutes and some of their programs. We currently have a pilot project right now that we have in our, it's called our Digital Center. And this is a center whereby you can connect using technology to build digital knowledge across the two different locations. And our goal is to even actually train 1 million young people to be digitally trained and in terms of skills set. So you can have people sitting in the first city and actually support a New York City company like Citibank. So these are the things that we're trying to really put the bar. So I'm going to talk more about that when I have the time to do that. But we are harnessing technology to drive almost every facet of life. Our education, our healthcare, now driving, So education, technology has really changed the way we live post-COVID. And that has taught us that we can't just live the way we had before. And I know a lot of you guys must have been thinking like, oh, I'm not even going to go to class no more. I want to do it online. So at this time, let me just pause. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Prince Akinwale, joining us from the Diaspora Innovation Institute. And how lucky we are to have Professor Tim Kirk. He's the chair of the history department at York College. So that's my boss, everybody. Let's unmute to say hello to him.
Hello,
hello, ma. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Professor Kirk. All right. So what we're going to do is to unmute ourselves. To mute ourselves rather, I'm sorry. And then we will get ready for the presentation by Professor Adebusuyi, who has joined us this afternoon from the Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife, Nigeria. And he's brought about 40 students and faculty from his university to join us online today. And periodically, we will have our students also from York College, the cultural diversity class joining us here today. So Professor Adebusuyi, without further ado, I'm going to give you the floor and I'll be happy to run your slides for you if you want me to. But sorry, before that, let me just tell you a little bit about this COIL program again. It was started by the State University of New York, and it's called Collaborative Online International Learning. This project actually provides an opportunity for faculty across two different borders to be able to collaborate on teaching, on research, on presentations, and also in providing a diverse avenue for students at both ends to be able to interact with one another. So pretty much the way the COIL project or program works is that both Professor Adebusuyi and I, this is our second time running this project. We did one about a year ago, looking at, verbal and non-verbal communication and some challenges in cultural diversity. And this time around, we'll be looking at living in complex societies and looking at, ethnicities and cultures across the two locations. So the COI program is actually a very good program because it allows for more hands-on and interactive exchange with students who may sit in a classroom in New York and imagine what it means to live in another society or vice versa. So this is a wonderful opportunity having a faculty, joining us with his students to share with us today about living in complex societies. So Professor Adebusuyi, I'm going to share my slide and you can, I'm going to share my screen to run your slide for you and then you can take the floor. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Thank you very much, Professor. Good evening, everyone. Let me start by appreciating the chair of history at the State University of New York.
City University of New York.
City University of New York.
Yes.
Only time to join us this evening. It is evening in Nigeria. I guess it should be morning or afternoon over there as well. So thank you for being with us. And also, I'd like to appreciate the presence of Prince Akinwale Ojomo, who actually did the connection between my university and your university over there. So thank you for the role you played in making this COIL program a reality, Prince Akinwale Ojomo. And to my partner over there, Professor Alapo, thank you for doing everything possible to make this work to be okay. So, and also my student, everyone here, I say good evening from Nigeria. So I move on to my presentation this evening. That's complex societies. And I just like to, my presentation will be in three components. The first component will present a kind of a conceptual understanding of what complex society stands for. Also, I try to make a specific differentiation between what constitutes a simple society and what constitutes a complex society. In other words, I try to present possible points of intersection between what may be simple and what may be complex societies, and also distinguishing factors of the two types of societies. And also, I will try to round up the presentation by trying to bring a kind of a practical connotation to what complexity entails in terms of understanding societies. So, firstly, I'll be describing what a society entails. And please, next slide, please. So I will be approaching this presentation basically from sociological background, because I'm a sociologist. And now I try to present what a society is. Is there any remarkable difference between what a society is and what a group is, or what a community entails? So in sociology, the term society refers primarily not to a group of people, but to the complex pattern of normative trends or normative patterns that constitute patterns of interaction that arise among individuals in society. In a more succinct manner, I've described society as a complex web of organized association and also of communication within a given community. So in other words, we cannot substitute society with a group, So also we cannot substitute society with a community, although there's those interactions among these three concepts, that is society, what a group of people indicates, and also what a community entails. Please, the slide has disappeared.
Yes, I was typing a message because I hear a lot of background noise. So please, if you're not speaking, mute yourselves to show respect for our guest speaker. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again. Can you see my screen, Professor?
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
Okay.
So just to summarize the point I'm trying to make here, before a setting could be referred to as a society, there are basic determinants that are expected to be inherent in such a configuration of people. So I have also described society as not specifically referring to a group of people again, but as a system of relationship that exists between individuals that constitute a group. So in describing what a society entails, understanding, having the knowledge of what a group stands for is necessary, but more importantly, we need to understand what constitutes a group in order to understand what a society entails. So basically, a group must be a constituent of individuals before we can refer to related settings as being a society. So next slide, please. Thank you. So on this slide, I try to now contextualize what's a simple society, or what simple societies are, and what constitute complexity in understanding attributes of societies, that is, differentiating simple from complex societies. So here I've described simple societies to imply small-scale societies or social groupings with a relatively simple technology. So also in other contexts, specifically when we are describing what a simple society constitutes in Africa, simple technology may not particularly imply. Rather, we talk about rudimentary technology, or basically referring to simple society as basically traditional societies. So I also describe that this type of societies are not only small in size, but also their control over the environment. When I mention environment here, I'm referring to both social environment and natural environment. The control of individuals that constitute this type of societies over social and natural environment is quite limited. So in other words, instead of exploring the environment for the benefit of individuals who constitute the society, the environment take a more preeminent role, a more preeminent space relative to the constituent of the society, that is the people. Naturally, in order to ensure societal sustainability, in order to ensure societal progress, individuals who are the constituent of the society should ordinarily be able to explore the environment for its progress. And also, simple societies are also identified with small-scale market structure, and their scope for specialization in the division of labor is hugely restricted. So put differently, in simple societies, there is near absence of a specialization and what we refer to as a division of labor. task responsibilities are not particularly differentiated in simple societies. So when we now make mention of complex societies, most of the attributes identified for simple societies, we have the direct opposite applicable for complex society. But it should be noted that complex societies do not just emerge suddenly. It is imperative for a complex society to experience a period of transmutation from simple to complex. So when we talk about simple society and complex societies, besides the fact that complex society usually emanates from simple society, there must be a process of transmutation or a process of development from simple to a complex state. So I describe complex societies here as being characterized by attributes or features that include state structure with a large population, wherein its economy is structured according to relevant areas of specialization and a division of labor. This economic feature spawn a bureaucratic class and institutionalized inequality. This is not to say that inequality is not obtainable in simple society, but it is much more pronounced in complex societies. Put differently, inherent inequality is one of the most significant attributes that drive activities or situations within complex societies. Inequality is central to the functioning of complex societies, but not particularly applicable for simple societies. This is not to debase the role of inequality even in simple societies. It is much more pronounced in complex society. We have essentially compare Nigeria from Africa with the United States as a case reference. Both are, of course, affirmed as complex societies because of inherent attributes. And also, when you see the case with Nigeria, instead of social inequality, instead of economic inequality, it's widening every day. It's also applicable in the US, but while the attributes over the years are better managed, the attributes that cleave towards inequality in a society like Nigeria are poorly managed. Next slide, please. So on this slide, I try to explain what features of complex societies are or what the attributes are. I try to bring them to a kind of a pictorial depiction. The first attribute I explore here, as I referenced earlier on, a major reflection of complex societies is the presence of geographical boundaries and prevalence of political institutions. There must be a clearly defined boundary system in a complex society. Also, the political system, it is usually somewhat advanced. So, but when we look at the case of Nigeria, the political structures here are advanced to the extent that they are actually explorable by the political class, not necessarily to facilitate social progress in the society, but they are advanced to the extent that individual political elites could make use of this platform to further their selfish interest. But relative to what is obtainable in the US, political actors will still use political platforms to facilitate their selfish interest, but to a considerable extent, the larger interests of the society are not sacrificed at the altar of satisfying the egos of the political elite over there. So I also made mention of a population is a factor in understanding what complex societies are. There is usually high concentration of population in specific areas or in distinct areas of cities in complex societies. So one of the factors that make complex society to be complex society is that population is usually huge. And this is usually formed by different people from different backgrounds, from different cultural cleavages, from different backgrounds. And also, aside from definitive geographical boundaries, an advanced political system, and huge concentration of population, another attribute that distinguishes complex societies from other forms of societies is that there is prevalence of social classes. And as you could recollect, as we have made mention of inequality the other time, the existence of social classes, it's the foundation for inherent inequality that does the existence of complex societies. These social classes do not stop at the level of social engagement. In terms of religious engagement, in terms of economic engagement, we see this inherent inequality as depicted in the case of social classes permeating all other institutions of the society. Next slide, please. Also, so on this slide, I try to look at what constitutes evolution in understanding complex societies. I'm affirm here that the evolution of complex societies usually began when agricultural subsistence systems is capable of supporting human population densities to the levels that it will support large-scale cooperation and establish pattern of division of labor. I now put it in a simplified manner that is, we can understand how complex societies evolved by explaining that it entails a pattern of transportation from a largely simple non-modern state to a more advanced state. But one thing is inherent in the transportation process of simple society to complex society. We have tasks, we have responsibilities being less differentiated in simple society, or what can still be referred to as traditional society. But when we are moved to the level of complex societies, task responsibilities become highly differentiated because of the kind of skills that are even required to be able to function appropriately in that kind of society. So in other words, for a simple society to become a complex society, there are different attributes that must experience changes, feasible changes in its in the structure of the society. What we consider to be simple in terms of understanding societal evolution must essentially become advanced in understand the functioning of complex societies. Next slide, please. Thank you. So on this slide, I try to explain in a very succinct manner what correlates of complex societies, or what the structure of complex societies look like, or what are the inherent determinants of understanding what complex societies are. So I try to simplify everything on this slide. The first issue is that there must be existence of cities. And we understand cities, when we mention cities, definitely we refer to attributes like urbanization, we refer to attributes like migration, we refer to attributes, oscillating around modernization. So there must be existence of cities before societies could be affirmed to be complex in nature. And also, there must be prevalence of surplus production. This is an important attribute of understanding what complex societies are. Also, there should be intensification of agricultural production in explaining or in understanding what complex societies are. As I made mention earlier on, there is a prevalence of specialization. In fact, this is one of the attributes that sustain continue the existence of complex societies. Functions become highly specialized. Functions become highly differentiated. So this is a very common denominator of what complex societies are, and also inequality. And what usually spurs inequality in complex society, it is the extent of competition. It is the extent of where individuals can go to protect their interests. We have competing interests, we have competing intent. All of these eventually lead to prevalence of inequality in the operations of complex societies, as we can see all over the place in Africa, in the United States. I also made mention of multifaceted political and economic systems. This is the kind of advancement I was referring to earlier on in my presentation. We have the economic system, we have the political system becoming highly advanced, highly differentiated. And this will naturally make the political process and the economic system to require some measure of specialization as well. So we could see all of these attributes, all of these structural indicators, all of these correlates. We see as they exist in complex societies, it is particularly necessary for all of these attributes to also work interdependently. They actually function interdependently. Thank you. The next slide, please. So as a way of concluding my presentation, I try to bring a kind of practical connotation to the understanding of complex societies. And in Africa, I try to pick a country like Nigeria that reflects practically all the reflections and attributes of the African continent. And also I try to make reference to the United States. So I affirm that what is paramount in understanding what complex societies are lies in the aspect of sustainability. How do we make complex societies sustainable? Because we as I said earlier on, that there are expected completing interest. We have expected completing intent. And all of this would naturally spur conflict. All of this will naturally spur misunderstanding, as it is prevalent in multicultural society, as is prevalent in multi-ethnic society like Nigeria. So like the case of Nigeria, I try to put forward that what determines the extent of complexity that dots modern day Nigerian society. It is even in the extent, in the number of ethnic groups that constitute society. Presently, we're having close to 5 different ethnic groups with different languages in the country. And in the country, we try to make one country, whereas we have underlying issues that are making this unification impossible. So first and foremost, an underlying issue in Nigerian complexity is the multiple ethnic groups in the country that we have been unable to manage for the progress of the society. So as a whole, when we see the case of the United States, I make mention that not what makes the society to be complex, aside from advancement, aside from innovations, lies in the extent of multicultural engagement of the society. We have individuals coming to the society from different aspects of the world, from coming in with different ideas, different reasoning, different thinking, yet you want to make all of them to reason along the way. Now, how do we make complex societies to be sustainable? It starts from the point of prevalence of rule of law. When you have individuals with different intents, when you have individuals with different backgrounds, when you have different individuals with different interests, of course, conflict becomes inevitable. But how do we make sure that such conflict so emanating will not be injurious to appropriate functioning of the society? It means we have to promote the prevalence of rule of law. In that presentation, Professor from Mexico did contribute that what role can ethics play in all of these processes? We also align ethics with rule of law. There must be prevalence of rule of law. Individuals should be able to comply with what we think by the society in order to make the society a sustainable engagement. And also, I have affirmed that there must be continued differentiation of tasks. So put differently, there could be a task that we believe that it has been sufficiently differentiated at this point, but as this society progresses, there may still be need to further differentiate such tasks that we possibly think that it has reached point of saturation. So aside from prevalence of rule of law, to make complex societies sustainable one, there must be continued differentiation of tasks in order to make specialization of the driver of complex societies. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Professor Adebusuyi. Let's give him a warm round of applause. Thank you so much. It was good to hear your presentation again. Before I open the floor, I believe my chair, Professor Tim Kirk, who is the chair of the history department at York College, he posted a comment into the chat appreciating everyone for joining us today, and that, he sincerely appreciated, the faculty and staff from Obafemi Awolowo University for the contributions they've made, for inviting him and students from York College to this presentation, and that you have contributed enormously to the learning of our students, being so generous with your time. He looks forward to other opportunities of active learning and engagement with faculty and students at your university. Unfortunately, he has another meeting to go to, so that's why he had to leave, and he will not be joining us for the rest of the time. But I want us to once again give Professor Adebusuyi a warm round of applause for the presentation that he has made on living in complex societies. So the floor is open for questions and comments from students who have, joined us from OAU in Ile-Ife, or from students at York College in New York. Any comments or questions to Professor Adebusuyi and his presentation on living in complex societies. So Oyewande Miriam posted a message. Thank you for your wonderful session, sir. So if you're not able to unmute, you can post your comments in the chat and I'll be happy to read them for you. So there's actually another comment from Professor Tim Kirk. He said, is this a descriptive claim? Complex societies tend to spawn inequality, or a prescriptive claim? Inequality is a necessary condition of complex societies. Professor, did you get that question?
Yeah, I got it. Let me quickly respond.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I did make mention of the process of transportation of a simple society to a complex society, and I also made mention the fact that it's not that there is no inequality in simple society, but it is more pronounced in complex societies. In other words, not part of the factors that are responsible for emergence of complex societies, but they are part of attributes that complex societies naturally give birth to. They are part, what I call, I'll call it a kind of reflexive development. Why is it reflexive? It is in the process of having a complex society in place that you have inequality also, going with it simultaneously. So it's neither at the base nor as the end product. As complex societies are emerging, so also inequality keeps growing. As complex societies are developing, so also inherent inequalities develop.
All right, thank you for your explanation to Professor Tim Kirk's question. There are two more comments. One is from Odiabara Isaka. He says, I'm grateful for the lecture, Professor. God bless you, sir. And then this person, there's no name, but they also enjoyed the presentation. Thank you so much for everyone that has expressed the appreciation for the presentation that Professor Adebusuyi has made. Earlier, we had ice-breaking challenges. So I'm going to turn it over to Professor Adebusuyi. He best knows his students, and he can call on them based on his interaction or knowledge of who they are, to see if he can get them to respond or ask any questions or comments on the presentation. Professor.
Thank you, Professor. Sister from OAU, I encourage you to contribute. Let's bring in idea, and as you are aware that we continue with this topic in our class later this week. So it's good you clarify a lot of things down so it can make our engagement in the class a very seamless one. So please, it's good we make contributions right now, please. Don't be shy. This it's good you make contribution, please. So we're expecting a lot of hands to be raised now. Thank you, Professor. I believe they will respond. It's for their own good.
And, going back to what you mentioned before you started your presentation, the third phase of our collaborative online international learning, project would be to have some collaborative exchange, intellectual exchange from students both in New York and in Nigeria, for students to work collaboratively on an assignment, a presentation, or a paper. So I believe, you can start the process now with practicing such interactions or exchanges on this platform. If you have technological challenges, you can simply post your comments or questions into the chat, and I'll be happy to read them aloud for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof.
You're welcome. All right, what about students from York College? Any comments or questions for Professor Adebusuyi? Or would you like to share any aspect of our interaction in the cultural diversity class with students joining us from Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria? Rabia, can you unmute and put your camera on and talk a little bit about your experiences so far in the 12 weeks or so of learning at the CLDV 100 class? Rabia Samar.
Yes, Professor.
Yes, can you put your camera on too?
Yes.
Hi, Rabia. This is one of the very good students in the class.
Oh, thank you, Professor.
You're welcome. Yes, share about some of the aspects of cultural diversity that you have responded to either on Blackboard or that you have discussed in your group. How are you shaped by the complexities that exist in a society, either from your own personal experiences or observations?
So overall, my personal experience is very different in how it affected me and shaped me by from each discussion board from every week, we talked about each topics and how it connected to us. And one topic that I would really want to talk about is from week 3, socialization across cultures. So like for example, for myself, I came as an immigrant and my parents too. And when I came here, I struggled and my parents also. And from this day on, I feel like socialization is very unique across cultures and the struggles and the difficulties faced and how it makes each culture norm different from another culture.
All right, thank you so much, Rabia. I'm calling Adrian Owusu next. Adrian.
Yes, could you hear me?
Yes.
Could you repeat the question that you asked Rabia?
Yes, so share with us your week 1 to 12 or up to week 13, learning in the cultural diversity class, and also share some of your own individual observations or personal experiences as, an individual living in a complex society.
Yeah, so from week 1 to
Do you
week
mind
13,
to put your camera on, please?
I think I'm gonna have the same problem. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yes,
Yeah,
you did
the
mention
green.
that earlier. No problem. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
no problem.
my observation is that while I was like learning about different cultures, we have similarities and differences. So I guess like I learned a lot about like different cultures from other people in the class. And from my experience, I'm I am Ghanaian, so I've been to Ghana, and so like I know what it's like to be outside of like the environment that I'm in right now. So when I compare Ghana to now to here, it's different. It's like it's like two different worlds basically. So it's something to just keep in mind in, because like you might think like life is like normal here, and then when you go somewhere else, it's like completely different.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Let's hear from Asiya Ali Hussein. Asiya, can you unmute and put your camera on, please, and share with us as an individual living in a complex society. What are some of your cross-cultural experiences, in this society? Asia. Let's see who else is here. How about Yasmin?
Hello.
Hi, Yasmin. How are you? Do you mind to put your camera on, please? Oh, good. Thank you.
For my cross-cultural experiences living in New York, from week 1 to 12, I've been talking about my personal experience with living in New York City and being Mexican American, and how my culture and my identity relates to how I experience the world around me. And with what I want to add on to what Rabia said about talking about week 3 about socialization across cultures. I think for me, I was born here in the United States, so the socialization process was different. But when I traveled to Mexico for like the first time to see my family, it was very different with like how they interacted with each other. And I think that a lot of the aspects of why they interacted differently than how I interact with people in the United States is due to like political views, like personal views, gender, identity. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. Let's see if Asia is able to unmute herself. Asia Ali Hussein from CLDV 100 afternoon session. All right. Okay, so thank you so much to Yasmin, Adrian, and Rabia for the contributions that they have made as individuals living in complex society, and experiencing or observing the different aspects of what constitutes a complex society amidst all the many challenges and also the opportunities in those societies. So the students mentioned socialization. As many individuals are aware, living in the US is not always rosy in terms of, cultural diversity. So one aspect of living in a complex society is that even though there's a rule of law, or there's rule of law present, there are many institutional divisions that are very prevalent living in the US. One being racism, racial inequalities, is very prevalent in the country, irrespective of the opportunities that are there, because I know many students from Nigeria will be saying, oh, I want to go to the US, I'm going to leave Nigeria. I'm tired because, it's a lawless country. Things are not always working. But remember, every society has its challenges. Things may not be working because you watch a lot of movies, or, are always on the internet and see the rosy aspect of living, in a country like United States, even though, the law is very well put out there. If you commit a crime, you do the time. If you, do something negative, for you to, change yourself and be back in the society, you have to serve, some time. Also, institutionally, it's not always rosy for advancement for women, especially women of color. And, on the periphery, things may look rosy, but at the institutional level wise, there's a lot of racism that takes place in the United States that many people may not be aware, especially coming from, countries outside of the, I mean, obviously, locations outside of the US. The other thing that, may be a challenge to migrating or living here is that most times we're often shaped by what we see on TV. But once immigrants arrive, they find that the society, even though there's a lot of basic amenities, different from locations where they have migrated from, but there's always a struggle, a challenge to be able to partake in the activities of those communities, and that are different in view from what people have seen prior to their coming here. So I wholeheartedly understand the experiences of the students, talking about socialization challenges. A lot of times, many immigrants who do not speak English very well, or who dress a certain way, are often rebuked or laughed at because they don't speak American, they don't sound American, they dress very funny, they don't look like everyone that is supposed to be American. So the big question is, who is an American? Is it by birth, by citizenship, or by color, or by economic prowess? Who exactly is an American would be questions that many immigrant students will be asking, because most of the students in the cultural diversity class have actually never been outside of the US. They may be second or third generation immigrant students. They have no clue what other countries or living in other countries look like. They do share values or traditions from their respective places that their parents or grandparents may have migrated from. But to them, sometimes, we do discuss in class that part of living in this society is the acceptance of those who are different from others. It could be based on gender, based on race, based on ethnicity, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, culture, or even other aspects of what it entails to be living in a free society. So thank you so much for the students, to the students from your college, cultural diversity class afternoon session that have contributed today. Again, I'm gonna open the floor for our counterparts, joining us from Nigeria, to share with us how it is living in a country with over or almost 500 different ethnic groups. Oluwatobi Adeniyi, do you have something to share? No? Okay. Let's see. If you can use the raise hand feature, or you can just unmute yourself. Any questions or comments from anyone at, joining us from Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife, Nigeria? Okay, I see your Jewande Miriam, you're laughing. Do you have something to contribute? What of Owolabi Olapeju Florence? You're unmuted. Would you like to say something? Okay. All right. Well, let us have, okay, Odiabara Isaka, would you like to make some remarks?
No, man, no, man. I'm enjoying the class well, man.
Okay, thank you so much. I saw you unmute yourself, so I thought maybe you wanted to add something.
No, man, I just wanted to see if he's working.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay, Professor Adebusuyi, would you like to give some concluding remarks to your presentation, to the comments by the students, And what else? What else for this project? What's next?
Oh, thank you, Professor. It's not only Diaspora we enjoy the class, I also enjoy the class. And what really made me to be particularly happy is the comment by the chair of history at City University of New York on possible description of my presentation, especially the concept, the way inequality was used. Because I've been going through his comments, and also I see that I've also learned because inequality in this context, it's more of a reflexive description that grows as a society is growing. And also the contributions by the students, particularly interesting. And I think one of the objectives for setting up this project, it's being realized in a significant way. And what is that objective? It is to make sure that there's a kind of a cross-pollination of ideas regarding what cultural description entails on both sides. What constitutes diversity in the context of Nigeria? What constitutes diversity in the context of US? And how can we even explain the human being from the point of view of his or own cultural orientation? And, I think the class has been quite interesting. And also moving forward, as I said earlier on, I could see an improvement. I'm concerned in respect of how the program unfolded last year. I could see what we have been able to achieve this year. It's a remarkable progress made in terms of content of the class, in terms of participation, in terms of engagement. So essentially moving forward, as I said earlier on, I want this project to take a step further. What do I mean by that is that we should seek for a kind of deeper participation, deeper collaboration between students on both sides. Students from the City University of New York, the Cultural Diversity Program, and even other interested students, particularly from your department. And from my own side here, I would also like to let you know that aside from the traditional sociology and anthropology department, we now have technically 4 more departments connected to sociology and anthropology in OAU now. So we're now running BSc Mass Communication, we are running BSc Film Production, we are running BSc Information Science, and also BSc Broadcast Journalism. And the interesting thing in all of these course contents, the interesting thing is that culture is central to delivering of all of these course content. And I could see that is directly applicable to what we are doing here. So as time goes on, I would also like to bring in more ideas at the level of these other programs that is being run by sociology, and particularly the cultural component. I like it to bring into what we are doing here. And for the students on both sides, the exchange project program, it may not start from physical exchange. It could even be possibly from research engagement online. Maybe from the point of exchanging of development here, also developments over there. But essentially, we see interaction taking preeminent role in all of these processes. Let the students be able to communicate. Like those platforms we opened last year, we should seek for a kind of reactivation. And not only reactivating this, let the students take ownership even of this interactive process. To me, I believe this is the most significant and sustainable procedure for making this project to not only realize the set objectives, but also to make it a sustainable engagement. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much. In addition to all that you have said, I hope that we'll be able to put into action many of your suggestions. I know that last year, when we first embarked on this COIL opportunity, we were looking for ways in which to develop, resources that both our students, both students at CUNY, City University of New York, and your university or your department will be able to use as resources for our individual courses, and how we can, collaborate on syllabus content. So I'm glad that that took shape. Of course, with the challenges of the living, trying to outlive the COVID pandemic, a lot of things was, became very slow to achieve. And I'm very grateful that, you and your colleagues, as well as a number of your students showed up today. So I know it's about 9:30 p.m. or so in Nigeria. I'm impressed that this time around, people are able to stay. Sorry?
Hello, Professor. It's almost
Yes.
11 in Nigeria.
Oh, you are kidding me. So it's 10:30. Okay, sorry about that. All right, because of our time change.
Yeah.
So, I'm very grateful that you and your colleagues and students hung around for this long. We achieved sort of the first phase of the project last year, developing open education resources, and we're still working on a lot of those resources. This time around, we're able to beat technological challenges and the COVID pandemic. Last year we had a lot of dropped calls, a lot of dropped access to the platform, but I'm grateful and glad that technology has improved somewhat this time around, and students are able to remain longer on the internet. So the third phase, as you've suggested, which we discussed on a number of occasions, I'm gonna let my chair know that you're interested in continuing this work and to see the expansion of the project between the two universities or the individual departments involved. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We've had a very wonderful interaction today. I'm going to stop the recording, and we can hang around to interact or say hello to one another. But before that, I would like us to please put our cameras on so that we can take a group picture. So I'll give a minute or so for us to put our cameras on, to take a group picture. Picture time. So I'll give a few seconds so that both students at either end can put their cameras on. I know it's very late for you in Nigeria. We sincerely appreciate you joining us. For those interested, either in New York or in Nigeria, please put your cameras on, and we're going to take a group picture together. All right, I see Tunoluwa fixing his hair and, Okay, so are we ready? On a count of 3, 1, 2, 3. I'll take one more. Let's say diversity. 1, 2, 3. Diversity.
Diversity.
Yeah, that's how to say it. Good job. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Professor Adebusuyi, I'm so grateful. Students, staff from the Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria, thank you for joining us. students from the Cultural Diversity Program at your college, part of City University of New York. Thank you for showing up today. And my sincere, last but not the least appreciation goes to the chair of the history department, Professor Tim Kirk, who was able to join us, earlier today. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Prof.
You're welcome. All the best.